make sure I had enough points from the book written down to share with you guys. I put together some slides, but I didn't get through everything, so I'm just going to go through what I have. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite copywriting books. I don't have a whole lot of copywriting mentors, to be honest, because I had a long career doing every type of marketing writing. I went to ad school in the early 2000s, I think from like 2004 to 2006. I took classes on copywriting because at the time I thought I wanted to go into advertising. I did not end up doing that, and I don't have any regrets about that. I did actually work with some agencies as a social media manager, so I feel like, I still got the training, and I used that training. But in those classes, I was introduced to a lot of concepts from, some of the copywriting greats. So I didn't really spend a bunch of time studying other copywriters when I started my current copywriting business. I felt like I knew enough to jump in. I was basing what I was doing off of what we were taught about writing copy for funnels in the One Funnel Way Challenge and in Russell's books. And honestly, that's been what I need. The rest that I've learned from copywriters is more about process, people who've been in the business longer than me and who are making a killing at it. So that's why I haven't spent a ton of time digging into other copywriters. But there's one person who came to my attention early on. I definitely consider him a mentor. His name's Ian Stanley. You guys have heard me talk about him before, or I've written about him in this group. And the reason I like him is, first of all, he doesn't just focus on copywriting. He teaches about money mindset. He teaches how to create exponential income in your business. He teaches a lot about the business side of copywriting and how to maximize, your current offers and how to do pricing and things like that. He also does meditations. He creates meditations. He has this funny English Australian accent hybrid that actually lends itself really well to meditations. And he has a money meditation I really like. He has a second self meditation. You can buy these meditations separately. And he has a really good email copywriting course called 80/20 email copywriting, which I also recommend. And I'll drop the link below. But today I want to talk about his book that he put out last year. It's called Confessions of a Persuasion Hitman. Kind of cool. Let's see if I can get this right over my face. Yeah. So this is self-published. His current ad about this, says my book is not a bestseller. And it kind of tells you a little bit about how he thinks. He's trying to kind of like pattern interrupt and grab people. But he did self-publish this, and you can get it for only $5 because you only pay for shipping. And I'll also drop the links. I highly recommend it. But what I want to do now is kind of go over, he has 13 rules in this book. Now, he doesn't even say if they're rules for copywriting. I think they're just rules for business in general and life that he's kind of put together out of, the experience with his own career. So without further ado, let me bring up those slides and I'll share with you. Hang on a second. Okay. Share the actual tab. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning here. Just want to make sure I'm on the right window. And I'm also going to open this in a new tab so that I can see my notes. Okay. So my plan with these is to, I do want to read more copywriting books for myself and so that I can share the wisdom with you guys. So I want to do a series. So some of these lives, which I do weekly, occasionally I'll spend an hour, just talking about one of the books that I read. So this is the first one by Ian Stanley. There you go. You can see the cover. Again, I will drop the link where you can get it yourself. So who is this guy? So he's a professional copywriter. Some consider him to be one of the best in the world. And his track record kind of backs that up because he's sold over $100 million of products and services. Now, I know from being in his inner circle and, having been in a lot of his trainings that he doesn't really need to take on copy gigs that often. But when he does, it's usually writing a sales letter. And he gets paid usually a minimum of $25K just to write a sales letter. Now he can do that because his sales letters get results, and he has a ton of proof that his sales letters work. And so he usually works with, big companies or high ticket clients who can pay his prices. So that's why he's able to do that. But it does show you what's possible if you're a really good copywriter who gets results. I also know, because he's very transparent about his business, this is a working copywriter who makes $80K to $100K a month. Now, this is completely possible. Now, I think most of this does not come from client gigs, although, like I said, if he has 2 gigs where he's getting paid $25K each, that's a pretty good payday. But he has a lot of his own offers. He has courses. He does, coaching at his house, which is like $10K just for 1 day of coaching. He has several trainings, which I'll talk about later. And he'll do things like he incentivizes all of his gigs. So, say somebody pays him $20K or $25K up front, he works it so that he'll get paid an $80K bonus after, the funnel is profitable. So I think that requires that it makes, a certain amount of money. I don't quite know how he sets that up, but I do know that he regularly gets paid these huge bonuses. So he says that one of the secrets to his success is that he from a very young age discovered that he had a talent for adding tons of value onto things that start out small and then being able to raise the price because he intuitively understood what a value ladder is. So he shares stories in this book about how he was a kid entrepreneur and how he sort of naturally and intuitively did things that we're taught to do now, such as increase the average order value on a sale. I'll get more into that later. I'm going to try to keep this to about half an hour. And I might come back and, go through the rest of this with slides. So now he teaches several ways to increase your income via courses. So he has a course called the 1 Hour WorkDay, where he, just like it sounds, teaches people to do less or make more money in less time. He has something called the Exponential Income Roadmap, which kind of teaches you how to create a value ladder in his business. And he does free trainings on this pretty regularly. So I do recommend getting on his email list. Plus he's just a great email writer. They're always entertaining. And he has a double your income training. Then he also has several evergreen products like the 80/20 email copywriting course. He has something called the Unit, which I am in, which is a $250 a month subscription where you get to get on these calls with him once a month and he'll go over your copy and critique it. I'm about to offer something very similar to my audience. But he also does bonus trainings every month in addition. So we get any training he does, like the Exponential Income Roadmap that he would normally sell separately, we also get access to. And then he has the 1 Hour WorkDay. Interestingly, and this is also why I like this guy so much, he also records and sells his own meditations. So he, like I said before, he has a money meditation that I really like, which is designed to help you attract more money. And he does stand-up comedy. And he also makes really funny, I know you can't click on this link, but he makes really funny videos spoofing entrepreneurs we know and love, like Russell Brunson, like Grant Cardone, like Ty Lopez. So he's definitely an interesting guy. Okay, so I'm going to start going through his rules, and we're not going to get through all of them today, but the fact that he has the book divided into 13 rules, and each sort of section, each chapter is its own rule, and he basically tells a story from his own life to illustrate the rule and how he came up with it. And so it's just like a very easy book to read, but it also has like serious golden nuggets of wisdom in them. So his rule number 1, and this pertains to, of course, working with clients, is set clear boundaries. So a lot of us are bad at this when we start out. I definitely have been, and I still, have slipped sometimes. So like he advises that you start off right away by defining what you will and won't do for a sale. I gotta fix that. What you will and won't do once the sale is complete. Hang on, I'm gonna kind of correct this as I go. Benefit of being live, right? What your expectations are and how you'll meet them, what their expectations are and how you'll meet them. So kind of the golden nugget from this whole chapter is that how much money you make from the work you do depends less on your skill and more on your boundaries with clients, because this is what allows you to make a living and have a life. So what does that mean? I mean, kind of depends on you, but it's helps to be crystal clear on what you will and won't do. So, for example, if your rule is that you have one kickoff call with a client and then you'll check in with them 3 days later, let them know that. Because I have clients who message me constantly on Messenger and it's annoying and it stresses me out because they're constantly saying, hey, how's it coming? How's that going? Do you have any questions? It's like, no, I'll reach out to you if I do. So even simple things like that are going to save you a lot of time and stress in the long run. So rule number 2, this is probably one of the most important rules in the book, I'd say, is get the highest average order value on every purchase. This is something that Russell Brunson definitely clearly advises in the One Funnel Away Challenge, I think in all of his books. And it's just about basically, if you have a funnel, adding upsells, adding on one-time offers, adding, the next logical thing that solves the next logical problem that your client's going to have, or even that your offer creates. So like say your offer is writing a sales funnel for somebody, what's the next logical problem they have? Or the next logical need might be, well, now I need to drive traffic to this funnel. So maybe you sell them some Facebook ad templates or an add-on service of writing their Facebook ads, something like that. So in this chapter, when he's discussing this, he talks about, how he learned this lesson when he was just 10 years old, when he started a lemonade stand. So phase 1 is acquiring goods, and he says cut your costs of goods sold whenever possible. So how he did it with his lemonade stand is there was a lemon tree on the other side of a tumultuous ravine that was behind his house, and then there was a 6-foot tall fence. On the other side of the fence was a large lemon tree patch. Inside the lemon patch were 2 large Rottweilers, but he was still willing to go traverse the ravine, climb the fence, risk the Rottweilers, and he would go and pick all the lemons himself. So he didn't have to spend any money for this lemonade stand. He would get the lemons himself, make the lemonade. Phase number 2, add SKUs. So what he means by this is add on complementary products to your main offer. So he decided to sell his grandma's cookies with his lemonade. So that was like his upsell. He bagged up packs of 1 and 3 so that people had options. And, he claimed his grandma was a straight up cookie gangster. Her cookies were famous, and he would talk that up. Phase number 3 is give them what they need. So this is where you're predicting the next logical add-on product and adding that to the sale. So in his example, they had lemonade and cookies at the lemonade stand. But he lived near a golf course, and he decided to set up the lemonade stand near the golf course with the logic that a lot of golfers who'd be coming to and fro would be thirsty. But he took that one step further, and around dusk, he would go to the golf course and go comb the bushes for lost golf balls. Then he'd clean them up and resell them back to the golfers. Some of them were normal balls, and some of them were like more expensive ones called Pro V1s. So basically, he was taking these golfers' old discarded golf balls, cleaning them up, and selling them back to them. It's pretty darn clever. Phase number 4 is select a location. So like I said, he picked the most logical location near where he lived, near the golf course, because there was a lot of traffic. So, but in a larger sense, what this means for you is just go where the money is. It doesn't matter how good your product is or how well you can sell if you don't have any traffic. So the better the traffic, the better the sales. So however you need to do this, if you need to run Facebook ads, if you're getting people to your offer through your Facebook group, just make sure you have that figured out. Phase number 5 is set your prices. Hey, if anyone's watching, I think I see somebody, drop me a note and let me know who you are. I want this to be useful for everybody. Phase number 5 is set your prices. So you want to incentivize them to spend more whenever possible. So that's why most kids, at the time were charging 10 to 25 cents per cup of lemonade, but they started at $1 because they knew with their location where they were, they could charge 4 times the competition. And because they also incentivized people to buy more. So the first cup would be $1 and the second cup would be 50 cents. So it's kind of a no-brainer if they get the second one for half price to buy more. And then with the cookies, they'd sell 1 for $1 and 3 for $2. So that's a clear incentive to buy 3 instead of 1 because it's a better deal. And then the golf balls, they had two kinds. They had one that were pricier, and so they obviously sold those for a lot more. So that's why he says the best practice for your first upsell is almost always to sell them more of what they've already bought, especially when they can't continue their activity without that item, hence the golf balls. Phase number 6, make it rain. This is where you're making the sale. So the best way to do this is meet the customer where they are. You're joining the conversation that's already going on in their head. They're probably already thinking to themselves, man, I really need somebody to design my funnel. I really need somebody to write my copy. And so you start talking to them from that place. So like when I'm selling my copywriting skills, if I do a story post or something like that, I talk about how difficult it is to sell anything without good copy, how difficult it is for most people to write their own copy, how hard it is to make sales with bad copy, things like that. So I'm kind of talking to people as if they're talking to themselves. So to do this, you want to ask yourself, where is your prospect in this moment and what is their level of awareness? And then you can kind of meet them there. Okay. Kind of seeing if there's anything I can add from the book on this. Yeah, then he advises add-on products that solve their next problem. So this was easy with his lemonade stand. First, he would sell them lemonade because they were thirsty. Then they'd say something like, you're going to want to balance out that acidity with something nice and sweet. How about one of Grandma's famous cookies? Then ask them if they need some extra golf balls. So boom, boom, boom. That's 3 sales where they might have only made 1. Yeah. Then you should also add scarcity and urgency whenever possible. I think this is not a new concept for most of us. But like with the lemonade example, he would, it's a little morbid, but he would talk about, hey, I don't know how much longer my grandma's going to be around. Her cookies are famous. You don't want to miss out. Get one now. So definitely tap into that. You don't want to miss out feeling. Oh, 1 second. Okay. So phase 7, count your winnings. So you want to strongly try to figure out how much of what you're making is pure profit, and then take that profit and reinvest some of that where it makes sense. So like with his lemonade stand again, example, he said his friends would typically make $10 or $15 in a day, which was a nice payday if you're 10 years old, but they weren't your average 10-year-old, so they sold $63 on that first day. They gave $5 back to their friend's little brother because he helped out, so he kind of reinvested some, and then they divided the rest. But so because he was a kid entrepreneur, he says he reinvested some of his money into Pokemon cards because, he could later sell those for more. So that day, basically they made 4 to 6 times industry standard. So from a young age, he was already doing this. Then celebrate your wins and learn from your mistakes. As entrepreneurs, we tend to not stop to celebrate the wins enough or look at what we could have done better. So he, even with the lemonade stand, he kind of looked back from his perspective now and talked about what he could have done better, which includes, like he could have had a better sign. He didn't have any cookie samples, which would have maybe sold more people on the cookies. He says, don't get high on your own supply. He ate too many of the cookies, thereby missing out on profits. Didn't have a good sign, and didn't celebrate the wins. So the reason for this is he says, if you shut down your emotions when you're feeling good, you're going to stop seeking out things that make you feel good. This dangerous road to downplay your wins. And he says that winning, no matter how small, tends to lead to more winning. I would definitely agree with that. Hey, if you're watching, drop me a note below. Let me know you're here. Glad some people are watching along. So the golden nugget from this goes back to the AOV. Extract as many dollars as you possibly can from each purchase, especially when you're paying for advertising, because that's going to get you a better ROI. You'll get more profit if you're, paying up front for advertising. So you can do this with product add-ons, something that is highly congruent with that offer, upsells, and scarcity. And of course, the higher your AOV, the more money you will end up making. And you should focus on upselling products that are highly congruent. So this would be any products that enhance your initial product, get people results faster, or maybe offer a done for you or automated solution. All right, next lesson. Rule number 4, time and money are not related. So this goes back to the old trading dollars for money trap, which a lot of us end up in, especially as service providers. I would say I'm still in this trap. It's gotten better than it was when I first started because now I charge more for the gigs that I do, but still, in order to make more money, usually I have to take on more gigs. So the goal would be to have like a recurring monthly revenue model, which is what I'm currently working on now. Or just sell more info products and have a larger audience for those products. So if I had courses, right now I have master classes, I have a 30-day challenge. I do have things that people can buy from me, but I don't really have like a core product. So you should remember that when you're structuring your business, because time and money are not related. In the book, he says that as adults, we tend to forget that we sucked at everything as a child when we first started. So no matter how physically talented or smart you were bad, at least to some degree, on your first try, right? But as a kid, you don't care. You just keep doing it until you master it. But now as adults, we tend to expect ourselves to excel at new things immediately. And we forget that in order to be good, you have to be bad first. You might suck for a while at first, and we lack the patience to see this through. I think this is doubly true for entrepreneurs. Because we want everything to be fast, fast, fast. And that's hard to sustain. So also, we're conditioned by society to associate time with money, and we are conditioned to exchange time for money at a young age, but it's not necessary. So like, if the first gigs we usually have as kids, we get paid hourly. So 1 hour's worth X amount. And then as we get older, we get paid a salary. So again, you can go and take your salary and figure out how much you're getting paid per hour. And there's even a saying in our society that time equals money, but this is actually not true. And what further magnifies this problem is that we tend to learn skills that require us to be present to make that money. But I think what we know about funnels and this whole mode of doing business is that we don't have to be present. We set up a funnel, we just have to drive traffic into it, make sales on repeat, and we can make it evergreen. But the takeaway lesson from this chapter is that you need to get really good at one thing and then charge more money for it than the competition. This will ultimately save you a lot of time. You can make as much or more money as your competitors in way less time if you just follow this one rule. I think he had some more points on this I wanted to share. Okay, so this is how Ian Stanley does this. He follows these are rules he follows for himself to ensure that his payment is not based on his time commitment. So number 1 is don't start from scratch. He only works on a project if they have an existing funnel that's already getting sales. This is actually my preferred way to work too. That's why I have my offer copy remix, where I'm not writing funnel copy from scratch. I do still do that, but I charge more for it. I charge double than what I charge just to rewrite the copy, because it's much easier to take something that someone's already created that has all the basic components that you need and just make it better. It's easy to just kind of see the holes and flaws, especially if you're experienced. He says the amount of effort it takes to build a wheel is significantly more than it takes to make an existing wheel spin faster. He also makes sure that his work is incentive driven, so he always works in bonuses based on funnel performance. Now, I'll admit, I only started doing this recently, and it was with a big time influencer in our space who doesn't balk at my prices, but also understands the value of incentive. And so, she paid me X amount up front. And then once the funnel started making money, she paid me the rest. We were both happy with that. So if it's possible to do in your business, I recommend it. Then, ask your client, do you care how much work I put in, or do you care that I win? if they say they care more that you win, then you know that you have the right client. He also shares, that the only bad clients he had were people that he offered to agreed to discount his regular price for, and they ended up being bad clients. I just went through this myself, even knowing better. I had someone who was a friend of a friend who had charged a lower price because he was a homie for sales funnel copy. Also because I just offered a deal to help me get to FHL. And he kind of approached me right after that. I was like, okay, you're close enough. I'll let you have the deal. The problem was this friend of a friend knew that that's what I had charged. And so when I gave him my price, he balked and he said, oh, that's a little more than we were looking to spend. And I didn't want to lose the sale. It was a quick cash injection, right? So I said, all right, well, I'll give you the same price that so-and-so paid since you're a homie. Well, that ended up being a big mistake because this ended up being a very high maintenance client. He was, really pushing me about when I could get it done. I don't like to give people exact dates usually because things come up. It's not that it takes me X amount of time to write a sales funnel. It's I need to make sure I'm working that in with the rest of my projects or the rest of my responsibilities, or making it fit in with the work time I have available. So he was really pushing me to name a deadline. We had a misunderstanding about the deadline. I was like, well, I could get this to you at the end of the day, not the beginning of the day. He got upset. He's like, well, I had my funnel designer who was all ready to go. We were supposed to get on a call and then they're going on vacation. Okay, well, not really my problem. And then I started thinking, I was like, wait, you know what? If you give somebody a discount, the trade-off is they can't push you on timing. Typically, if it's a rush job, people should be paying more. So I told him that. And I was like, look, I would rather just refund you the money and not be shorting myself what I should be getting paid for this, especially if you want it done as a rush job. He backpedaled and he was like, oh, well, it's not about the time. It's about you getting it done when you say you're going to get it done. And I was just like, again, well, I don't know that I can commit to a specific time right now, and he also said, this is kind of what pissed me off and what turned the deal for me. He said, well, it's really not about the money. He's like, I just want it done when you say you're going to get it done. I was like, okay, I'm thinking, you told me you didn't have the money. You basically fished for a discount. You didn't need the discount, which tells me that you don't really value what I'm doing, or you're just cheap. And because he was so high maintenance and demanding and he was getting a 50% discount, I ended up just refunding him the money. I was like, it's not worth it to me. And then that was the right decision because a few days later, I booked a gig at my regular price, which was twice as much money. So long story short, don't discount yourself. If you do, if a client is pushing you for a discount, they're not going to be a good client half the time. That's what I've learned the hard way. So that's where, again, it's important to set clear boundaries of what you will and won't do. So, you can say, I don't want you to email me multiple times a day. We'll have one check-in a day, or I'll check in with you 2 days later, or whatever it was, set clear boundaries. This is also a rule for himself that not all of us can pull off, but he says he only does the work if it pays a minimum of $25K upfront, because the more you charge a client, the better that client tends to be. See my story that I just told you. It also keeps you from taking on too much outside work, because you may make more money in the long run from your own, this shouldn't say clients, from your own funnels. So I wish I could get rid of this thing here. All right. So I want the full view, but I don't want this thing blocking my view. Sorry, this is laptop probs. Because now I can't read this. You make more money in the long run from your own funnel, so don't get too bogged down in client work or tempted by quick cash injections. This is something I still struggle with because I want enough client work to ensure that my bills get paid, but the problem is that takes up all of my time and then I don't end up launching other things. I started working on a funnel for a new coaching model that I was going to launch in April, and now it's June. Because what happened was, COVID happened. My income was drastically impacted. I wasn't making much money. People weren't hiring me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pivot and get this model out the door. Then I got busy again and I put that on hold because I'm like, I don't have time. I'm working half the time I used to because my kid is home with me all day, every day. I have 4 hours to work a day if I'm lucky. I can't make the time to get this funnel out there. But now it's 2 months later and I wish I had that out. I can still get it out, but because I allowed myself to get so busy with client gigs, it pushed that back significantly. Okay, so next rule. So continuing with this, if you're not charging enough, I see what I did. I have this slide in here twice. This is kind of what happens. All right, anyway, I'll fix that later. But rule number 4, you're probably not charging enough. This is a tough one too, because when you're starting out, you need to price lower maybe than the competition so you can start getting gigs and get testimonials. But I think the temptation, or what ends up happening, is we keep those prices for too long, maybe because we feel insecure about raising our prices, or we're worried we're going to lose clients, et cetera, et cetera. But what actually happens is that you usually end up attracting better clients who understand the value of what you do. So that's why you want to charge more whenever possible and as soon as possible. So the rule of thumb he has is if the price you're charging doesn't make you a little uncomfortable, then you're probably not charging enough. There's an old Dan Kennedy quote that goes, charge as high a price as you can while keeping a straight face. So if you've been charging the same price for a year, then that's too long. As you improve, you should increase the prices accordingly. He even gives some possibly controversial advice, which is whatever you want to charge them, triple it. But I've heard this from a lot of different people, and it seems to work. I would say I've at least doubled my prices from last year, because now I've got all this experience behind me. I've worked with, now 4 different 2 Comma Club winners. My copy gets results. I've gotten a lot of great feedback. So I should be raising my prices, and I'm still not charging as much as I could be compared to people like Ian Stanley or Justin Goff or some of these big name copywriters. I'm not that big a name yet. Maybe I haven't worked on enough high profile projects, but it's definitely something I can work towards. So the gold nugget here is you don't get what you deserve in life. You get what you believe you deserve. Good rule for life. So the next rule is you're always selling a feeling. Your principal goal with writing copy is to build desire in someone. I'll just go into my notes here. So there's a sales method he talks about called results in advance, and I think this was taught by Frank Kern. And the idea here is that you create results for your prospects before they buy. I'm not sure how you do that. Maybe you're doing work for free up front. I don't really know. But he says this is a good concept, but is not actually how you should think about selling. So he chooses to focus on feelings in advance rather than results in advance. So I'll get more into that in a minute. But he says people don't buy results. They buy the feeling that result, product, or whatever it is provides. They're almost never aware of this fact, but it is the reality behind what's driving their buying decision. It's always emotion-based. So if you're inspiring people somehow, or you're tapping into their pain or their pleasure or their vision of how the future can be, you're more likely to sell more. So he says you should focus on provoking the 8 core emotions: joy, fear, passion, love, anger, pain, shame, and guilt. And if you can create these feelings in advance, then you allow your prospect to experience the feeling your product will create before they buy it. And it's that feeling that will get them to take action to buy. So when you're writing your copy, make sure you're thinking about these emotions and how to provoke them, because you're always selling a feeling. So the principal goal here, sorry, that's a double slide again. So this is a concept he uses that he called advanced emotional selling. And there's a 2-step process that you need to do to create that insatiable desire in your prospect. And basically step number 1 is amplifying a feeling. So during any sales message, presentation, call, whatever you're doing, you need to focus on these 2 things. So 1 is amplify a feeling or feelings, or reduce a feeling. So you either turn up the fear or you reduce the fear. You increase the pain or you take it down a few notches. So if you focus on the amplification or reduction of feelings, then you have a potent strategy for building desire. Now, so that's where he starts talking about advanced emotional selling. And what this is basically, it's based around using stories to sell. And the more emotional those stories are, the better. Because again, remember, you want to provoke a feeling in people. You want to get them to feel something that will then increase their desire to buy. Just enlarging this again. So the general rule of thumb here is the more people feel, the more they will buy. So the golden nugget to take away here is it's your job to create feelings and a sense of connection in people. The best way to do this is with stories. And so the stories you share should ultimately be about the listener because they're always relating the story back to themselves. So whatever you have going on in your story, it should be something that people can relate to. Didn't want this quite so big. Okay, just making sure I don't have some notes here. Okay, cool. So rule number 6. I only got up to, I think, rule number 7 with my slide. So I think what I'm going to do is stop there and then come back and do the rest of the rules at another time, either next week or in another couple weeks. If you're watching, again, drop a comment so I could see who's here. I can't really see via StreamYard. So rule number 6 is do the math. So attention is the first step in any sales process. If you don't have your prospect's attention, it doesn't matter how good your pitch is, how clever your words are, how much they like you, or how amazing your offer is. It's not gonna matter because they're just gonna bounce. They're not gonna be there for you to make the full pitch. We're just catching up in the book here. So he says it's better to be different than it is to be better. So if you have something that sets you apart from anyone else, then use it. So like Ian's example that he talks about for himself is his accent. He has this weird English Australian accent hybrid. And so it's often better for him to sell over the phone or sell in person because people are sort of captivated by his weird accent. So this also might be like in your funnel, have a really good line. If your hook is really different than everything else that's out there, it could be the opposite of what the competition is saying. You know, that's what you call a pattern interrupt. If you're saying something that's contrary to what they expect, that's a great way to grab attention. So here's how this process tends to work. Step 1 is you get their attention. As a bonus, if you are able to qualify the prospect by trying to only talk to people who are not happy with their current product, that will help you sell what you have, which is the better option. Step number 2 is find out about them. You know, get them talking, like let them know you care, and like also just it's important to have that information when you're making a sale, especially closing on the phone. Step number 3, make a custom offer for them. So after you've heard about what they need, you kind of customize your offer. This probably works best if you're closing on the phone again or doing like coaching offer, something like that. But making a custom offer can really help. And then step number 4, do the math. So you want this is where you would logically lay out the math of why they should buy from you. So like, for example, if I was selling somebody on my copywriting coaching, I could say, look, it's going to save you thousands of dollars a month. You might pay somebody like $2,000 to write the sales funnel copy for you. If you sign up for my copy coaching, we'll do it together and it'll only cost you $300 instead of $2,000 because I'll give you feedback, I'll fix the copy for you, and I'll teach you my process as we go. So it's going to save you like $1,700 a month. So The golden nugget thing to remember here is that you don't matter. What you're selling doesn't matter until you know what matters to them. So remember to always make it about them. All right, I think that is all my slides for now. Let me just go over one more lesson because that'll take us to the halfway point in this book. So rule number 7 is to combine short-term cash flow with long-term recurring revenue. I think this is good advice for any business, so not just copywriting. So, for example, he often talks about how he has a pretty small list. There's something like 1,000 people on it, but the average amount of money he makes from that list is so much higher than most other people who have huger lists because, you know, he is so good at engaging people and offering the perfect thing that they need. So he said recently he looked into how much he earns per subscriber from his email list. Oh, okay, I was wrong about his numbers. His list is now around 6,000 people, but only a few months ago it was at 3,000. And still, his email list earns him around $70K to $130K a month. That is amazing. So that comes out to about $11 to $22 per subscriber per month. I think you guys probably remember Russell Brunson telling you the average you make from your email list is $1 per subscriber. So if you have $1,000 or 1,000 subscribers, hopefully you're making $1,000 at least. So Ian basically makes 11 to 22 times higher than most lists based on that rule of making $1 per month per subscriber. And this is definitely not normal, but he's saying that we can all replicate that. And the reason he thinks he has such a high earning per subscriber is because he focuses on the long game, like what they're going to need later on, but understands the importance of cash flow in the short term. So he's constantly making offers, some that are like low ticket and solve a short-term problem. And then he makes sure to intersperse that with these higher ticket offers that are things like teaching someone how to create exponential income in their business, something that's going to be far more valuable to them in the long term, and also something that he can charge more for. So he says that most successful email marketing fall into one of two categories. One is the pump and dump or churn and burn. So they want short-term cash from their list to fund their traffic costs. So he says this can work well, but not in the long term. Overall, it's a stressful business model, but that's how a lot of 7 to 8 figure business owners operate. Number 2 is they do long game only. So this is more common amongst people who like teach marketing or people with high ticket items that don't spend money on paid traffic. So they don't need that short-term cash flow necessarily because they rely on referrals and high profit margins. But he says the real money comes when you understand both. So that's how you earn revenue from day 0, but turn high profits over the long term. And that's the email system that he uses in his own business. And he does this for one primary reason, so you can scale your traffic. So if you can acquire traffic at break even on day 0, so you're making money from your list on day 0, or even day 14 or day 30, then you can scale in a real and profitable way. So let me see what other gold nuggets there are in here. So one thing he says it's cool is scaling traffic is not linear, it's exponential in a lot of cases. So at the $1 per subscriber number, you can only get 1,000 subscribers per day, but if you start earning $1.25 per subscriber, then that's a 25% lift in revenue. And then you increase that number as your list grows. So make sure you're making more and more offers as your list gets bigger. Let's see what else we got. Well, this is cool. So one of the reasons this works, and we've heard this a lot too, that one of the most important selling factors in the history of selling or factors is called the know, like, trust concept. So we're all familiar with this. This is why we create Facebook groups, because when people know you, like you, and trust you, they're way more likely to buy from you. The more you focus on the relationship before you sell, the more you'll sell. It's just something we see in action all the time. So basically the gold nugget here is don't rely on people to come to you, meet them where they're at. And this has multiple meanings and layers. So Like, go where they hang out physically, websites, social media platforms, Facebook groups, or even stores. Make sure you're there. If your buyers primarily hang out on Facebook, but if you're constantly trying to find them on LinkedIn, you're going to struggle. So go to where your prospects are. Second, meet them where they're at emotionally and mentally. Think about where they're at in the sales cycle. Are they in the comparison stage? Are they ready to buy? And talk to them from that place. Are they even aware of the problem that you're solving from them? Are they aware that there's a solution? They already know you or what you're selling. So think about all of these things when you're creating your pitches. So the single most important question you can ask before writing any copy, making any pitch, or selling anything is this: where are they at now? So find out where they're at physically, mentally, and emotionally, and then you can tailor your pitch to that place. That's the difference between being a great salesperson and copywriter and only a good one. You want to enter the conversation that's already going on in their head. So this is why, it's a little bit of a tangent, but the first few lines of your copy or the hook is the most important part, because that's where you're typically dropping right into the conversation that's going on in their head, right with your hook. So the flip side of this is that if you say the wrong thing in the beginning, you can lose them forever. If you say the right thing, you can gain a customer for life. All right, so that's all I've got right now. We've gotten through about half the book, and it's been about an hour, so I'm going to wrap up. But guys, I highly recommend this book. It's really easy to read. It's only like 116 pages. The chapters are broken up into the lessons, and there's all these little gray boxes that have mini lessons, so they're kind of like pop-outs. So it's really easy to skim. You know, that he does that thing that we're all told to do, which is like one sentence per line. Stop sharing. So you can see really short sentences, super easy to get through. I'm going to drop my link to the book. I am an affiliate for him, which is not my main motivating factor at all in sharing this book with you. This is one of the few copywriting books that I've read this year that I've taken immense value from. And actually, I'm going to jump now because my mentor, Ian Stanley, the man, he's doing a call right now on exponential income trading, and I wanted to jump on. So I hope this was useful for you guys. Again, I'm going to drop the link below. Hope you like this training. Next week, I'll be back on a Tuesday. I'll do a different topic. And if you ever have an idea for a topic you want me to cover, there's something copywriting related or funnel related you want to learn more about, please let me know. I'm happy to tailor my trainings to what you guys want. In fact, that's what I should be doing anyway. So hope this was useful. See you guys next week. All right, bye.